The Corporate Council on Africa, the largest umbrella body of U.S. companies operating in Africa. The agreement seeks to enhance collaboration between Kenyan companies with the American counterparts in a deliberate government effort to create more jobs and employment opportunities for Kenya's youth.
So there's a bit of confusion over the weekend. Was it Utamaduni Day or Mashujaa Day and such? Well, it was Utamaduni Day, where radio presenters are from KBC, that is the Kenya Broadcasting Corporation vernacular stations, on Monday morning were, adorned in traditional regalia, observing the Utamaduni Day. Now, messages of preserving and conserving Kenya's diverse and rich culture dominated the airwaves as the presenters challenged the young generation to embrace their culture. Now, elders from different cultures also were invited to the studios and also had an opportunity to talk to the listeners and, the importance of culture and tradition. Remember, mwacha mila si ni mtumwa ama si mtumwa. My Swahili wasn't so good. Now, Kenya is observing its first Utamaduni Day after it was officially declared by the government in a move to promote national unity, cohesion, and economic progress.
In December 2020. The elderly in Kiambaa, however, are of the opinion that cultures that gave us our unique identities have been abandoned for the modern life by the youth.
Babu zetu ndio walikuwa wakiongoza familia, na jambo lolote likitokea wao ndio walikuwa wanaulizwa vile itakavyoendelea. Kuja polepole hivi ikawa si lazima kuuliza mzee pale.
The youth on their side feel that they have not had a chance to learn from their elderly and community, hence the generational cultural void.
Jui sababu sijaelezewa na wale wakubwa wangu, wale wazee. Kwanza kama sisi wa Kikuyu hatujaifunzwa, tunajulia tu huku juu.
We get a few cents from this lady in Mombasa, don't hinder traditional attire on what ought to be done going forward to see this holiday get the much recognition it should be accorded in line with the original intent.
Utamaduni wetu ulifanywa na mababu zetu, ndio tunafaa kuufuata, na pia tukishaufuata the generation zetu, sasa watoto wetu na wajukuu wetu tuwafundishe. Kulikuwa na nguo za kimatamaduni, sasa hiyo ni kama tumeisahau, na sisi ndio tutakuwa na makosa kwa sababu hatukufundisha watoto wetu.
Ilikuwa ni watu wanapika kienyeji, watoto wanaona hii ni maragwe, hii ni ndoma, ndio unajua kumbe hiyo ni chakula yetu utamaduni. Sasa utakuta chapati ilikuwa wapi huko ndalo wakati hiyo, utakuta chips.
In Homa Bay, Christopher Odhiambo blames the Western culture for eroding and creating disconnect between the African culture and the youth.
Unaweza angalia penye mvua ilianza kupiga hapo. Tuangalie tumepoteza sehemu gani ili turekebisha sehemu zenye tumepoteza hizo culture zetu.
Bernard Muda, however, says there is still more to celebrate about our African culture.
It used to inculcate a lot of things. It used to teach the youth about the norms of the society and good morals. That is no longer there, because they tend to kind of want to associate with the what we call with the socialites, who exactly may not be emulating what people want in the society.
The government has been called upon to play a more important role in creating awareness on this national holiday.
Sisi tunataka siku ya utamaduni. Mombasa County ile na utamaduni yao. Kila county alafu watoto wanajua kumbe wasee hawa walikuwa wanafanya namna hii. Lakini sasa tunaonyesha watoto nini? Kukaa ndani ya nyumba na kuangalia TV.
Mwacha mila ni mtumwa. That's what Miss O says here in studio. You need to be alive to your roots and your background so that you can also pass on the values and traditions to your generation and then generation to the next. Question is, can you speak fluent mother tongue? We'll be tackling that as it talk matters in the headlines. Now we cross over to matters food security, where over 600 families in Magarini, Kilifi County will benefit from a 34 million shillings irrigation project that is expected to cushion them from the ongoing drought affecting parts of the country. The project, funded by the Coast Development Authority, is expected to make the area food secure.
Coast Regional Commissioner John Elungata, who officially commissioned the project upon its completion, said it will go a long way in cushioning locals from perennial food insecurity in the area. Coast Development Authority Managing Director Mohamed Kainan said the project was to encourage farmers to practice agribusiness. Meanwhile, farmers have been urged to engage agricultural extension officers to inform their investments. The commercial manager for Yara East Africa in Lower Eastern Kenya, Stephen Mburu, said new technologies in science can boost production.
We are bringing also an application that will help us interact with you and help you from end to end. So when you're planting, we walk that journey with you. When we're available, of course, physically, but also we have a very continuous touch with you through the growing period.
Tuko na uzinduzi baina ya Yara East Africa na Koteva, kwa sababu kuko na project yenye inafikia wakulima, yenye itasaidia wakulima kuhakikisha ya kwamba wanapata vitu kwa shamba zenye wanaweza tumia, mbolea na mbegu ya kupandia yenye watapata na bei mzuri.
He was speaking during the launch of a micronutrient fertilizer, Yara Microp, targeting to improve maize yields in the Lower Eastern region.
Naambia wakulima ya kwamba tumeleta inputs ama products ambazo zitawasaidia kuongeza mazao. Tunaleta inputs ambazo zitawasaidia kupunguza gharama ya ukulima ili waweze kusaidika ama kutengeneza faida zaidi ya hapo awali.
Mimi ni mkulima na nimetumia fertilizer hii ya Yara wakati mrefu, kwa sababu nilianzia wakati walianza na ile walikuwa naita power, na nikaitumia nikaona vile imefanya vizuri.
Leaders from Kenya joined their counterparts from South Sudan in Kapoter, Eastern Equatorial and Lokale in a bid to calm cross-border hostility along the Kenya-South Sudan border. The leaders supporting calls for peaceful coexistence between the two communities owing to a shared ancestral heritage despite the cross-border differences.
We want to pursue the route of peace. We want to take leadership as two countries, to encourage our people to be peaceful, to coexist together, to share the natural resources that are available within this region. And recently we become members of the East African community. So my appeal to the Turkana, to the Toposa, and to the Ataker in general is to be peaceful and to harness the opportunity and the resources that are available within this region.
I want to say this to our governments, both in Kenya or in Uganda or in South Sudan. I'm hearing there are people continue being harmed. We don't need armament. We don't need our people to be armed. We need our people to be disarmed. And I want to talk to my message to the leaders of Turkana. This question of people called KPR, whom we are still giving arms, people who are not trained well. This arm can continue to bring insecurity.
Remember, you can get further details on our website, www.kbc.co.ke. Now to the counties. There was drama in Yokos area of, there was drama at the Yokos area of Kitengela after speeding water bowser killed 15 sheep that were crossing the Nairobi-Namanga road. The accident saw several herdsmen from a senior town throng the scene seeking to torch the lorry. Details of this and other stories from our county news roundup.
Incidents of hit and run on domestic animals along the Nairobi-Namanga have been rampant. According to an eyewitness, other motorists had slowed down to allow the herds cross, but suddenly a speeding water bowser crashed the sheep.
Wenzetu ambao wanaendesha malori za maji wanakuanga na ujeuri sana. Hata hivi majuzi hapa karibu Muigai kuna jamaa na karibu anagonge pale.
And Nairobi women representative Esther Passaris has urged city residents to come out in large numbers and receive free eye checkup from a team of doctors currently undertaking the exercise. Speaking at Muthua Health Center, Passaris said cataract has affected many, yet it can be cured.
Please take them to the Kayole Soweto dispensary tomorrow for screening, and also take them to Mukuru kwa Ruben so that the dispensary, so that they can all be screened and booked for surgery if they are cataract patients. I mean, you go from one day of not seeing to the next day seeing.
Our mission to transform the life of a people. That's the reason that we always support this initiative, great initiatives.
Especially during the pandemic, because it's very difficult for underprivileged Kenyans, those who don't have access to healthcare, those who find it very difficult to get free healthcare in Nairobi, to access the health facilities.
Meanwhile, residents of Nyaribari Churchill of Kisii have benefited from a free dental clinic. The clinic targeted those who cannot afford medication due to harsh economic times.
The problems is oral hygiene, and that is why they get more problems.
Dawa wale ambao tu kutolewa meno tumepewa tarehe ya kwenda kutolewa na pia tumeridhika.
On girls sensing technology and
elsewhere, Sabrina Chepkemoi and Marietta Halima of St. Thomas Girls Secondary School in Kilifi County have been crowned Young Scientists of the Year for the best innovation at the 2021 Young Scientists Kenya National Science and Technology Exhibition. The two winners received 50,000 shillings each, plus full scholarships at Strathmore University.
We were able to come up with a breathalyzer, which I believe will help to solve the major problem in our society.
Remember, the nasal swabs, we are not producing them ourselves. They are being imported. And therefore, we know that they are very scarce in supply. And not forget, they are expensive. So the government is having a problem in availing adequate medical kits.
Finally, a family in Kiambu County may lose their land over a 2 million hospital bill left by their late 79-year-old kinsman who succumbed to COVID-19 a month ago. The widow Susan Gadhungu is pleading with the government to come to her rescue before the hospital takes over the land.
Hii saba ikiuzwa sijui naenda wapi. Sina kitu ingine, hata hakuna mahali ingine tunaenda, tunakaa tu hapa. Akataso manasema hawezi kupatiwa mwili bila kulipa hiyo bilu. Sema masaidie tu nikuwe na samba na mzee yangu ni musike kwa samba yake.
To the sporting arena, where Kenyan athletes continued their sparkling performance and put the country in glory after emerging victorious in this year's Boston Marathon. Diana Chemutai, Kip Kosgei and Benson Kipruto were yesterday crowned women and men champions respectively. Kipruto timed 2 hours, 9 minutes and 51 seconds, while Chemutai clocked 2 hours, 24 minutes and 50 seconds. Another Kenyan, Edna Kiplagat, finished in the second position, timing 2 hours, 25 minutes and 20 seconds.
He's got about 2 blocks left to go.
He says his favorite workout is the long run because of the mental flow. You see him move to the left side of the street. The left side of the street today reserved for the winners. All the other winners finish on the right.
And I know the guy is one of the takers.
He says on a perfect run, it's as if the body moves without any effort. His moves are strong and fluid. He puts in the kick with the last steps. Benson Kipruto, the winner of the 2021 Boston Marathon. You to set different goals, face yourself in a different way.
And as we commentate here, the helicopter flying overhead, the lights of the police escorts are coming down the street. Diane Kipyogi on her finishing stretch.
Passing the Lenox Hotel in the final block of her race.
With 2 career marathons behind her before today, Diane Kipyogi from Kenya about to break the tape. Your women's winner in the 2021 Boston Marathon, Diane Kipyogi of Kenya.
2:24:50 unofficially.
Well, you need to understand that, sometimes our pronunciation of our ethnic, names and such is very strange to people who do not speak our language. Matters of Uriri constituency, Migori County, have qualified to be referees after a 5-day training exercise that took place at Uriri High School. The exercise was organized by Football Kenya Federation.
The Uriri Constituency Football Kenya Federation FKF coaching clinic attracted 6 ladies while 44 were men. The Class 3 National Referees course was conducted by Football Kenya Federation FKF in collaboration with Uriri Member of Parliament Mark Nyamita.
To persevere, to be here for 5 days with no pay, they have left their other jobs. For me, it is an indication of passion that they are looking forward to build a career out of this one. Most importantly, why we're doing this is we are trying to capacity build at the bottom of the base, so that these young men and women can also make a career out of this.
I've come out as a referee now. I'm a qualified referee, and I can now start practicing. I can't wait to start officiating.
The training clinic is part of FKF's project of having well-trained and qualified referees from grassroots levels. Elsewhere, a 5-day physical and technical training for elite FIFA referees commenced at Kericho Green Stadium. That training is part of routine program in partnership between Football Kenya Federation and FIFA, with an objective of developing the referees.
At the present moment, we are extremely happy with the performance of the Kenyan referees. Very soon they will be going to some to Qatar, some to Morocco. They've got a Champions League game. So really, that doesn't come when referees are not doing well.
We have reached a stage in terms of developing our referees where the FIFA are focused on our referees.
That is on, and that's why the exercise was so important to us, because it will enable us to do our task.
Well, that brings a cap to In the Headlines right here. Remember, you can get further details on our website, that is www.kbc.co.ke. In not too long, we're going to be sampling what has been captured, the various dailies we have with us in studio, but do not go away. Being a back to school, we're expecting quite a backlog in as far as traffic is concerned. This whole week, we are going to be looking at, talking about matters of back to school, and it will be evidenced on our major roads. We have Traffic Marshal A1, that is Doreen Arang on the other side of studio. We just tell us which are the available routes and how is it looking at just a few minutes, half an hour actually, to 8 a.m. To you, Doreen.
Exactly, and again, obviously, just because of the reopening of the schools, actually, the better part of this week, we expect heavy kind of traffic on most of the major roads, not just in Nairobi, but even beyond. But today, we are going to be focusing on what is happening along Langat Road, also simply because of that ongoing construction happening around the T-Mall area, or the T-Mall roundabout, as you head over to the city center. And perhaps you can begin from just that particular roundabout. This is actually that T-Mall roundabout where there's still an ongoing construction on this particular route, and once the construction is complete, the upper lane of this particular route is expected to serve areas along Langata Road as well as Bagadi Road there, and on the other side, or better still, on the lower side, it's expected to serve areas of Maimahi Road as well as Mbagathi Way. On this particular section, it leads you to areas around South. See there, Nairobi West, and that's on those sections. On the other side, those areas that I've just mentioned is what is expected to be served by that the elevated area of that particular route. So this is how the section is looking like this morning. Heavy kind of traffic as you head over to the city center. This is actually along Langata Road, just before you get to the roundabout, or better still, just before you get to that section or area where that construction is happening. This is how the entire section looks like. In fact, just as you leave the bypass area on that particular lane, as you head over to the city center, not moving at all, on some sections moving at a very, very slow pace. But obviously, again, this is just what we'd expect to see in this early morning hour on most of major roads, especially here in the city center. In addition to that, we obviously know that there's reopening of schools, and not forgetting the fact that there's still an ongoing construction. And again, this is also why this construction has become very necessary, at least to ease the traffic flow along this route, given the fact that it's one of those busy roads. On the other side, as you leave areas of the Nyao Stadium roundabout, Maimahi Road, and the sections of South Sea, the other side of Mbagathi Way, as you head over to the Timor roundabout, coming through the section of Langata Road, as you head over to the estates, at least on that particular lane, no traffic at all, moving at a very, very swift pace there. So if at all your workstations, any kind of activity is along this route, then again, this is just the best time for you to leave your homes, because right now on that lane, that just particular lane, no traffic, moving at a very, very swift pace there. So in our next link up segment, we'll try to look at the progress of that road around that area of the Timor roundabout, especially that elevated part which is slowly coming along, how it's coming along, how it is shaping, how Langata Road is expected to be looking like, and also altogether how this entire project is going to shape this particular route, given the fact that it's going to take place in 7 phases. And it's going to take about 3 to 4 years. So just what makes it a bit different, given the fact that expressway is coming along very quickly? That is what we'll be looking at on the next Leak Up segment. Also, as you try to look at perhaps better alternative routes, because as we've mentioned, it is the school reopening week. So obviously we expect heavy kind of traffic on most of the major roads here in the city center. But at least as of now, at just 28 minutes per 7 a.m., that is how Langata Road looks like in terms of traffic this Tuesday.
Unazungumza nini na maadui zetu wewe?
Ndio nipige kibao. Wajua nilikuwa niko karibu tu kupatana na Leo.
Yeye nifuatafuata na isiyotaka kunimaliza kabisa.
Watoto dadangu, hata sijui kama ni wake.
Umaanisha nini?
Huoni kwamba wakati umefika wa kuungana na mimi? Umemwambia nini babako ulipoongea naye?
Nothing.
Ana?
Kipi kinaendelea hapa?
Haijalishi kinachoendelea.
I will only stop you from killing more people. And what if I kill you too?
Because I can't love you.
And she can't love you either.
If you really love Vicente as much as you say, then why haven't you reproached me for his death?
Love of my life, my dear. And there's nobody who can change that, darling.
Now, all we need to do is move on to the second phase of the plan. You'll love this. Because this is where you come in.
You have something stuck here, right over here.
Eduardo?
Don't let him get away!
What's going on?
Hang on, hang on.
All right, welcome back. All right, now let's take a look at some of the stories that we have on the front pages of our local dailies. I have the Star newspaper, and on the front page of the Star, Kenyatta Bastion trails Ruto's in voter listing. Kenyatta Bastion trails Ruto's in voter listing. In Kiambu, only 2,334 people were registered in first week. That is on the front page of the Star. Equally missing in the top 10 counties are ODM strongholds. Something that IBC have also raised a matter with, that the voter registration is rather slow, and most of the politicians are now taking it upon themselves to do the civic education in their respective constituencies to sensitize people to go and register as voters. That is going to form part of our discussion later on in the hour. In the next hour, we are going to talk about the mystery that is shrouded around the voter registration and that magic touch when you talk about the youth and the voters. Now you are a voter, you are a youth, and now politicians are after you. We are going to dissect that later on in the hour just to understand how it works. All right, where's Trevor Elias Jamal? Cops say that he fled to Somalia and mother doubts. That is a story again that's worth reading. 21 governors in last term plot their post-22 political survival plan. That story fleshed out there for you, but in details you can take a look at that story so far. Now there's a story here that fake magistrate also impersonated CS Keter's younger brother, according to police. He has been on the run since 2018 after obtaining 1.6 million shillings from a man. A 32-year-old man was arrested at the weekend after impersonating a magistrate at Nakuru Law Courts for 3 years. Victor Kiprono Ngeno had also posed as devolution CS Charles Keter's younger brother to obtain money from unsuspecting people on the pretext he would help them and their relatives to secure jobs in the government. He was also known as Victor Keter. Ngeno has been on the run since 2018 when he obtained over 1.6 million shillings from a Nakuru man while personating a magistrate. According to police investigations, Ngeno, who was also privy to an ongoing civil case involving the victim at the law court, sought a meet-up with him with promises he could expedite the determination of the case in his favor. Now, when they shook hands in agreement after the fake assurance, the victim unknowingly signed in as a cash cow for unforgiving imposter. 3 years impersonating a magistrate, and it goes undetected. Somebody said this is Kenya and Kenya is our business. Remember, this reminds me of the fake doctor, the fake police inspector, remember? We have the police inspector who used even to ride in a police helicopter and nobody noticed who he was.
Ogopa Kenya. Unacheza na sisi.
But tukue very serious. Let's be very serious. Let's be very, very serious. When I read this case about that guy, impersonating a magistrate for a cool 3 years.
That's a full contract.
365 times 3. days. 8 to 5, let's give it how many hours a day, and 8 to 5, maybe 8 hours. Yeah. Interact, I mean, a magistrate. I mean,
serious.
You walk, I want to understand, was he even giving convictions?
You have your office, you have your driver, yani, you have all the court files.
Official outlook of everything.
This is the price we pay for being stupid.
You know, I'm just wondering.
And not doing due diligence.
I'm just wondering, by the time...
Nakupenda vitu za mkato Doreen.
By the time you are actually sitting down, because this needs strategy.
You know?
By the time you're doing this thing for 3 years, and no one can stop you. I'm just wondering how long it took him to just strategize, plan, and then finally execute
for 3 good
years. 3 years. And no one noticed.
I actually believe so that he can be caught. Because he needed people to make sure that his ruse was working.
Strategy.
He needed people to make his lie more believable. So maybe along the value chain, in his circles, people who were enabling him, aliwaosha. How much money did he run away with? Escape with?
1.6 million.
I think
at some point.
Akakafungia hapo, akamua, you know what? To hell. Those are the people who made sure he'd been nabbed, because you cannot operate in a vacuum with such an elaborate ruse for 3 years undetected
3
if
years.
you did not have people helping you see this to fruition.
And not just any people, Ray, people who are in the real offices, the real deal, that can give you legit documents.
You know?
And also this goes back to, you see this narrative here that most of us, the common people, see our leaders with such reverence. You don't even question their credibility or their credentials. And I think this is one of those situations. Say mimi ni brother ya so and so, ama niko kwa hii ofisi so and so. Not many people would be ready to question that, because also many people do not really know our leaders. A huge majority of the population, by the way, don't know their NCAs, don't know their even governors for that matter, don't know the different ministers. So mtu akuja kuambia mimi niko kwa hii ofisi na hii ofisi, what are the chances that you would refuse to believe that?
Hey, Google is your friend.
I think this guy just ran away with it, because even you can't go out there and start questioning a judge at, hey, show me your academic credentials,
your licenses,
your license of practice,
or your level of experience. Show me what you've done.
Because the moment
you can't do that. Let's just be honest.
No, you can't, because the moment you're in the dock, you freak out. You're like, hey, maisha yangu sasa yiko, you know?
And that's the problem.
You can't. And in fact, the investigation says that this guy had employment papers from the Judicial Service Commission.
Man, you see, there's a genuine person along the line
that goes by that name, probably.
Yes, that helps Search thrive.
Because
and this reminds me of the incident that we saw over the weekend involving Boniface Mwangi, where he was insisting on seeing the identification documents of the GSU officers as well as the guys that were claiming to be KRA. And by virtue of insisting to do that, it seemed that, you know, and from past incidences with him, he has been considered as a rogue person, someone who always goes against the grain. But then again, on one hand, we are told to always ask for credentials from our officers or enforcers, and on the other hand, it becomes a problem when it is also done.
I mean, this guy just, my assumption is probably he was coached. When you go to the dock, sit there, don't talk, ask questions.
Speak when you're spoken to.
Exactly. Just ask a very simple question. These are the words. You know, the legal jargons.
Short
yes, Your Honor.
Only.
Just do the writing and say, mention, you know, hearing and what have you, case kando. Perhaps this guy was coached. He disappeared, came back to Nakuru, continued with his work. Right now.
Victor.
Yes.
Do you know the magnitude of even the picture that you're painting right now is that someone actually walked into the magistrate chambers,
yes.
right?
Yes, because he's been operating for 3 years.
There's an IO, the investigating officer. There's a prosecutor. There are lawyers involved. I don't think it got to this point. I don't think it got to this point. I think this imposter approached this person because he had insider information about the case he's having, akampata njia kando. Because I'm imagining by the time, you know, you sit at the magistrate chambers, you even sit there at the front, you know, you're listening to people, and the IOs are there, the prosecutor is there. I mean, there's even the clerk, the court clerk. You know, I don't think we'd get to that point. I think he got crucial information and papers about this particular ongoing case.
Saw an opportunity.
Then saw an opportunity to defraud this person, yes.
Yeah.
Approached him as a magistrate. But he had never appeared in front of this guy as a magistrate.
But
that's what I'm thinking, because I'm imagining
for 3 years.
Yeah.
3 years. That's now. Because I think there's more to this than we know.
Yeah, that's a con man.
But then impersonation is also something that, oof.
Yeah.
And I'm just thinking, where is the place of integrity? I mean, for this person to do this for all these 3 years, and I began by saying the strategy and the planning that this person had to take.
The confidence.
And those inside the system, wale legit lo sasa wanamsaidia. Where is the place of integrity?
Scratch my back.
Aye.
Scratch yours.
Hata kama surely. Some things though.
Nikubaya.
These streets are savage.
Have you ever had an incident where you have gone to register a birth certificate? It's very simple.
Ask me about it, Regina. Ask me about it.
You see?
Just last week, by the way, I was thoroughly frustrated at one of the Huduma centers. I'm going to pick my son's birth certificate, ninaambiwa timechukuliwa na mtu mwingine.
Okay.
Trying to inquire, ninaambiwa nene nikatafute mwenye amechukua.
How now?
As though I'm the one who issued it to them.
Wow. Okay.
This went on for almost 3 hours, and mind you, at least these days when it comes to civil registration, you do it online, then you get a message, come for your document after 4 weeks. It has been over 2 months, no message yet, and yet when you look on your portal, you can see that you've already paid what you needed to pay, and the document is ready.
So perhaps this is what's happening across the country.
And you can imagine this is just one case. Imagine the many others.
The reason why I brought up that issue, Jane, it's because I was just giving a case in point, a case scenario, because it also happened to me some years back, over 10 years back. That same thing. You are legally following the due process to get something processed from a government office, right? However, the systems, the persons working here, they have no customer relations. They really do not have even an attitude, you know, a person attitude. They're all giving you all manner of responses. Like, for example, Jay, in that situation where someone has the audacity and the confidence to tell you that, you know what, your son's birth certificate was picked by someone else, so go find this person. I mean, do you think that person is actually sane? Did they hear what they actually said? So they're the ones who gave out the birth certificate. But you who is supposed to receive it, the rightful owner, should go get the person who took it.
Who was issued by them.
By them. It reminds me of a case where actually this matter was being pursued in court. And the IO then came and approached me and told me, you need to ensure that your witnesses are in court. I asked him, I go get the witnesses. I'm supposed to bring the witnesses? Take it back. What did you mean? Sema ulazima uhakikishe wale watu wako kotini. Nikamwangalia, then kambia, maybe I've been watching a lot of TV and NCIS Miami, Yara CSI, you know, where you expect that the IO, the person who is doing the investigation, actually ensures that the witnesses appear in court. But we have a system, we have a breakdown in our systems, especially where public government services are concerned, that there are people who are supposed to carry out their jobs meticulously, but they fail to do so. And they create an avenue for unscrupulous people to take advantage of innocent Kenyans.
But Regina,
because you do not want to go through that process.
It calls for just that, the sense of humanity. And the people usually say, ushaambiwa ukitaka kusaidiwa enda kwa so and so, atakusaidia. Always try and make a positive mark wherever you go. Whether it's that, always try, however bad you might be, but always try and make a positive mark. No wonder unasikia mtu anakuambia, ukitaka kusaidiwa don't go to Victor, don't go to Jen, go to Doreen. Doreen tatakusaidia haraka sana, because it's out of the humanity that she decided to do her job diligently while you wake up in the morning to go and serve. Then why do you frustrate someone? And that is your job.
But you know, the sad part of this all is that I am so sure there is no grown-up adult in Kenya who does not have a story of being mistreated or receiving very poor service at a government office.
And you see, that's
Sadly
why
so.
You see, that's why for some people, before even they get that service, they will ask you, can I see if you actually, this is what you do? You know, just case in point, by what also Boniface Mwangi was doing there. Can I see what you do? Can I see your credentials? Are you even the right person to be doing this? There's that level of professionalism that also needs to come with it. Because, I mean, it's...
Anyway.
Happy Utamaduni Day.
Happy Utamaduni Day. Let's continue the newspapers. But before you continue, I have a question.
Manners. But let us also take this time to appreciate those that actually deliver good service, because in as much as I had a bad experience, I also got someone who came in and assisted me, and in 30 minutes,
you're done.
I got the birth certificate.
I have a question. You are supposed, anytime you walk in somewhere, in any building you want to access anywhere, you'll be asked about, where is your ID? First of all, it's a requirement. Where is your ID? What's the problem, in this case of Boniface Mwangi, when he inquired to get to know the identity of the police officer? Is it a mistake?
You saw from the press release that was put out, they actually quoted saying that the enforcement officer was in his uniform, and by virtue of that, it was enough to identify him.
That's how.
And for Boniface to insist on seeing the actual identification card wasn't really necessary.
Perhaps he didn't have his service number.
But actually, listen, if you're actually the right person for that job and you have that ID card, why can't you just show it? What's so big about it?
I even go back because I watched that clip.
Even as we have
addressing the people who had come with the papers claiming were KRA.
Yes.
Because that is what he was okay with, the guy in uniform.
Yes.
Maybe, we know uniform is rented out. We all know this is Kenya. Tuongee ukweli, tuambiane ukweli.
On the streets, you see people with the uniform.
I mean, do your due diligence. Don't assume.
Uniform, then
so for me, a uniform is not a standard measure of identity. If it was, we would not be carrying our national IDs. And I like the question he was asking. He was directing to this gentleman who had come to arrest the barber where he works, where he was getting a cut, and he was asking if you are KRA, if you're having these papers, if you have come to arrest, identify yourselves. And towards the very end of that particular clip, a lady comes in, flashes their card, identifies themselves as Nairobi County officers. So the story changes. It is not KRA anymore. It is Nairobi County government officer. So I'm wondering,
do due diligence.
By virtue of saying he was in the uniform, JC uniform, is like saying if I hold a microphone that has a KBC logo, I'm an employee of KBC without needing to verify.
Maybe umepewa tu nisaidie kubeba.
They could have been fraudsters or kidnappers for that matter.
Have you ever gone to an hospital where all nurses are always in their dust coat, their uniform, but you must have a tag? Jinaki ko hapo.
And they constantly wear it to show.
And especially if you are in public office.
Yes.
Bro.
Must have your tag.
Exactly. It was a weekend. How many of you have lost money to a waiter or a waitress at a joint?
Not me. Not me.
Kukio kumeja, we tunajua when it is actually very crowded, people will come pose as waiters and waitresses. They will take orders from the revelers who've come there and they disappear. When you're asked who served you, you're like, alikuwa amevaa ile t-shirt ya brown. I mean, you need to know. Anyone can actually borrow some t-shirt or shirt.
Impersonation is real.
But they need to have a tag. Kwa mjanja.
Regina, what do you have on the newspaper? Kwa mjanja na newspaper.
Ukitufungia hii kama neno.
All right.
Let me just run you through the front page here real quick. This is looking at just the main story here is in regards to 23. women in a heated race to become governors, and this is by far the highest number that, you know, has been seen when it comes to the women that are throwing their hats in the ring. So most of these are deputy county bosses, women reps, MPs, and professionals that are, you know, declaring that they're going to be in the gubernatorial race for the come the 2022 general elections. And as it currently stands, since we got this devolved system of government, we've only had 3 women who have been in, you know, gubernatorial positions. So looking at the potential that is sort of being predicted, this time round we could be having more women holding these governor offices across the country as opposed to what we have seen in history, in as much as there hasn't been any woman who has, you know, declared any aspirations to become the president. We are yet to see that, but when it comes to the office of the governors, there are 23 women that have shown interest in regards to this. Ray?
Front page, you're talking about back to school. Man, as a parent, I feel the pinch. And when I hear the government saying fees reprieve for parents as school reopen. Now, the ministry acknowledges that many lost livelihoods because of the COVID-19 pandemic and are struggling to pay for tuition, pushes school heads to find different solutions instead of sending learners home over arrears. My question is this going to be the actual situation this whole week? Is it? Because we've had a situation where, and I'm speaking with a lot of authority without fear of favor, a school last term, kids who had arrears while the rest were sitting for their exams were kept in class but were not allowed to take their exams. Oof. Like they sit in class with the rest of the pupils, but they do not take the exam.
Because of arrears.
Until the parents pay the fee balance. So, what damage have you done to this child? What damage have you done to them? Because they have been studying the whole term. They also want to sit for their exams. But for one reason or the other, the parents have a balance. And because of this balance, or rather fee arrears, you decide as an administration that they're going to continue with their learning, but they're not going to take their exams. I think we're punishing children for the sins of their fathers and mothers. That's what I think. So I hope we're not going to see a replica of this, you know, this kind of inhuman kind of treatment of learners as we head to back to school. Yesterday on social media, a certain private school was actually trending. Why? They were locked out of a school, a private school, because they arrived at the school late. And this is per the administration. So the parents went on social media to protest and said that they were paying too much to have the administration treat them the way they did. And they actually termed that move as insensitive. So now we're going to be dealing with administrative institutions as we do back to school. And the question is, where will you find yourself as a parent? Where will your daughter or your son find themselves? Are these people who are running these institutions alive to the fact that there are challenges out here? And we are not negating the fact that also institutions are finding it hard because they have human resource to pay and such, and it's an operation to run. But then, how do we strike a balance? We'll be doing a spot check as KBC Channel 1. Be sure to give us your feedback. Twitter still remains on and open to you. In your feedback, you can reach us at KBC Channel 1 News, at Doreen Arange, at Jane Wamboi, at Victor Law, and at Ray Manyara. Back to school, government says to be a bit, administrations and institutions to negotiate with parents as far as fees are concerned. That's what we have on the front page of the Standard this morning.
Doreen?
All right, just before we get to close in the headlines, a quick look on how the PD is looking like. And we obviously have that particular story on Mount Kenya failing to enlist its voters. The article just well highlights some of those counties there in the mountain, key among them being Kirinyaga, as well as some of the counties which recorded a good number in terms of that voter registration. Those are being described as the sparsely populated counties. Again, the back to school, as we know, this week is that week of just going to school. And again, there's that conversation around school fees where parents are crying of paying fees in a single year, just paying that fees 4 times instead of the usual 3 times there. And again, the question of school heads saying that they were underfunded and that they needed more money. This was to be able to run things smoothly. However, at least they are anticipating and being optimistic that towards the end of this week, all that funding would have come on board, at least for quick and smooth running of schools there. Also, on matters politics, a bit there, that things politicians do to attract voters, to attract votes ahead of elections. You've obviously seen some politicians just bracing themselves in the rain. The articles also highlight some of those politicians there. So again, you can also just read about that and trying to make informed decisions and choices as we head over to 2022 general elections there. And that's where we bring the headlines to a close this Tuesday. Plenty more after this break. All right, welcome back to the program. A quick look on how the roads are looking like before we continue with the Good Morning Kenya. We are still focusing on what is happening along Langat Road. Like I mentioned, this is simply because of that construction around the T-Mall roundabout there as you leave areas of Langata branching through Mbagathi Way, and that's why we're focusing on this particular route this morning. Still heavy kind of traffic there on that section just as you leave the bypass. Again, heavy kind of traffic, not moving at all. In fact, just at a standstill. And on those areas where at least looks like it's moving at a very slow pace. So again, if you're coming from areas of Rongai, Langata, coming to the city center, then you just perhaps have to make do with this traffic. And especially this is just past that bypass. In fact, just past that area all through as you come to the city center. Traffic throughout that particular section, or better still, that lane as you come to the CBD there. Like I mentioned, again, heavy kind of traffic. Also, this is clearly necessitated by that fact of it's like I mentioned, it is the reopening of schools week. So clearly what we are seeing is basically what we'd expect to see, because a lot of activities on most of these major roads especially, and not forgetting the fact that there's still some ongoing construction around that roundabout, around the T-Mall roundabout area. This is just as you come to the city center. And again, this is because of that elevated as well as the underpass there, which is being constructed along that route to just ease the traffic flow. Again, one of those projects being undertaken by what we call the public-private partnership, and this is between the state, that is the Kenyan government, and the Spanish company. So that is what brings that aspect of the public-private partnership. This actually project becomes the third one in the country to be constructed under that kind of system. We have the expressway, we have the Northern Corridor, and also this one, which is being undertaken by what we call the public-private partnership. And clearly, just recently or lately, a lot of projects are being undertaken under that kind of system or form, because it's being considered at least as a cheaper and an easier way to construct most of these roads. Coming back to the traffic flow again, still the same situation there on that section or that particular lane, still heavy kind of traffic as you come to the city center. That continues up until past the bypass there as you head over to areas around the roundabout, the T-Mall roundabout. Again, still heavy kind of traffic, and also it trickles down past the roundabout as you head over to areas just before you get to the Madaraka roundabout there, and also past there as you head over to the Nyayo Stadium roundabout. Still heavy kind of traffic also throughout that entire section as well as that particular roundabout. So clearly again, Mbagathi Way always a good alternative route if at all you're coming to the city center. And this is how Mbagathi Way is looking like, moving at a very, very swift pace. They are green all through, just a bit of a traffic as you head over to that roundabout. That is at the city mortuary roundabout, a bit of a gridlock there, but altogether still moving at a very swift pace. You can use that as one of your alternative routes if at all you're coming to the city center. This is coming from all the way from areas around Langata Road. That is how it is looking like in terms of traffic this morning along Langata Road. Also, Kenha hasn't quite mentioned the progress of that road or that project being constructed around that area, but what we know at least as of now is that the construction process is still coming along well, and it's going to take at least a longer period of time before the road is complete. But in terms of traffic, that is how it's looking like along Langata Road at exactly 8 a.m.
Unazungumza nini na maadui zetu wewe?
Ndio nipige kibao. Wajua nilikuwa niko karibu tu kupatana na Leo.
Yeye nifuatafuata na isiyo kunimaliza kabisa.
Watoto wa dadangu hata sijui kama ni wake.
Umaanisha nini?
Huoni kwamba wakati umefika wa kuungana na mimi? Umemwambia nini baba ulipoongea naye?
Nothing.
Ana?
Piki inaendelea hapa.
Haijalishi kinachoendelea.
I will only stop you from killing more people. And what if I kill you too?
Because I can't love you.
And she can't love you either.
If you really love Vicente as much as you say, then why haven't you reproached me for his death?
Love of my life, my dear. And there's nobody who can change that, darling.
Now, all we need to do is move on to the second phase of the plan. You'll love this. Because this is where you come in.
You have something stuck here, right over here.
Eduardo?
Don't let him get away!
What's going on?
Hang on, hang on.
I can't believe that we've come to this. If every day we are go fight, I think it's best that you forget me. Hide me in your arms, oh yeah, protect me from my enemies.
That's why they've sacrificed grace and mercy. Nothing they can do to stop this music. Don't lose your culture. Don't lose your culture.
Seven, eight.
All right, and welcome back. Now it's People and Politics, being a Tuesday. Today we want to focus more on voter registration. So far, IBC has said that the voter registration exercise is rather slow across the country, and that is also a story that has been run on several papers, including the local dailies that we have here. And we just need to to understand what is happening that is causing most people not to go and register. And according to the newspaper here, Rift Valley tops in new voter registration while Mount Kenya trails. So we just need to understand why most parts of the country are not taking this exercise seriously as compared to other exercises that were done in the past. And now, is it because of lack of civic education? Is it because politicians are not taking their jobs seriously, at least to sensitize their constituents on what is happening? Or is it just that Kenyans are just reluctant and waiting until the last minute? Now, the biggest chunk of voters who are being targeted at this particular point are the new voters. IBC is targeting at least 6 million new voters, but whether that is going to happen is, with just few weeks to go, roughly under 2 weeks, and so far they have not hit the target, because as per their target and their data, they are not hitting their mark as per their expectation. So it's going to be a hard nut to crack even for the IEBC itself, even as we head to the next general election. But what could be causing some of these hiccups? The delay, the voter apathy that we are currently experiencing in the country. We are going to be discussing that at length with our analyst here in studio, our able guest and analyst, just to make us understand what is happening and what is this mystery about the youth. Why are the youth so much, in sharp focus every electoral cycle, that each and every politicians are just now yearning and gunning for that powerful youth vote? Why not the rest? So we are going to be discussing that later on in the next 1 hour, so that we just need to understand why you as a Kenyan need to go and register as a voter, or better still, if you have registered, you need to confirm whether your name is on the voter register list. That is quite important. We've had so many scenarios where you go to vote and then you're being told that, your name was transferred from polling station A to polling station B. And that distance sometimes causes a lot of confusion. That is the point that you realize that most politicians now start accusing each other of ferrying voters from one particular venue, one particular polling station to the next or to another, and that brings a lot of confusion during election period. So we just need to understand what is happening in the country and whether IBC will hit that mark at the end of this exercise, or they are going to swallow the humble pie and say we did not make it, and this is where we are at this particular point. Remember, even the diaspora vote is also being considered, how it's going to pan out, and soon we are going to be getting that particular data from IBC once this is done and completed. Thank you. And now in studio I have got Wakili who is with me, Wakili Warungu Mwangi. Wakili, good morning.
Good morning. It's been a while.
It's been a while.
I must admit that finally I'm happy to be back home.
Karibu sana. I like the word. Karibu back home. Karibu sana. And Joseph Mudhamu, who is a governance expert and public education and training officer. Karibu sana to the show.
Thank you. Thank you.
This is the first time?
This is my first time.
How do you say karibu in Kikamba?
Umodoche.
Hey. Oh, talk to them in Eastern.
We say Umodoche.
All right. Welcome to the program, as well as on the other side of studio I have one gentleman, Waititu. Waititu, good morning.
Good morning, Victor.
Karibu sana.
Asante.
Yeah, there you have him. So today we are going to talk about the youth, and just to understand why, from Juja is in central Kenya, and so to speak, allow me to start with you by default. Waititu.
Yes.
Why the voter apathy as a youth?
I think we are not motivated to go for registration, and I also think that personally the people who are supposed and are mandated to create a euphoria for voter registration are sleeping on the job.
Right. And as an advocate, youth advocate in the that particular area and region,
yes,
have you taken your time to do civic education?
Yes, I've also been trying to go through media and door-to-door campaigns, trying to urge everyone in the youth at large to register as voters. because our vote is actually very, very, very important come the coming general election. But however, the people who are supposed to be sensitive, I've not seen adverts and, IBC doing media, doing adverts, doing road shows on voter registration. So it is happening like it is a silent job.
Yeah. All right. So let me bring in Joseph Muthama here as a governance expert. Make me understand, why the voter apathy?
Generally, Kenyans want to wait till the last moment, the last day, so that that excitement, I think there is an element of fun, rushing and queuing and saying, the officials are not doing ABCD. That is one. Another one, an element of voter apathy is key, is apparent, and the environment that the Kenyan people find themselves in, matters of elections and matters of political campaigns are likely to take a back seat because matters of bread and butter are key, and people want to say, what do I want? What do I need at the end of the day?
Yes. And are we motivated as a nation?
The motivation is not there, and the unfortunate part of it is that part of the citizenry is like to be sort of induced for you to register as a voter, which is unfortunate. It should be a duty as a citizen for you to register as a voter.
Yes. Wakili, what's your take?
To start, Victor, the general will between the citizen and their political elite is always seen in voting. That's where you get an opportunity to sign a contract, a social contract of 5 years between yourself, your MP, your women rep, and your president, so that he can manage the resources that are mobilized by KRA. So it's very sad to see people are not ready or willing to take to register for voters, and it's a sad story because you will not get that opportunity. But coming back to your question, why we are having the voter apathy, for me I would view voter apathy as a political strategy, and especially it's happening in Mount Kenya. You find in a way that for now Mount Kenya, they don't have what I would call a substantive candidate. So probably there is no that urge of probably people getting out to go and vote. Secondly, the most important thing, people have been probably frustrated by either the current or the past regime, in a way that people now don't get the incitement to go and register for vote. And probably to get to vote, like say, in the general election. So there are a lot of issues coming out, but I think the most important thing nationally probably to the frustration. And I normally say a Kenyan citizen or a Kenyan voter is an irrational and emotional voter because of many frustration and many things that he or she is going through. But in the Mount Kenya, it could be a voter apathy, it could be a political strategy by certain Mount Kenya political elite.
Yes. Munywa, just to ask you, are we a frustrated nation?
Yes, we are a frustrated nation, basing on the fact that we are actually a frustrated world. Basing on the fact that we've just come from COVID, and we all know how the recession has been in the economy globally. But I would like to agree with the gentleman, because it seems like it is a strategy by some of the Mount Kenya leaders to ensure that we have politicized so much the moment that it has actually become going for registration is breaking a rule. So I think the same way when we have campaigns and all our leaders are on ground telling us to go vote, even during voter registration, we should have them. We should see the county governments engaging the youth and engaging the masses to go and register for the voting registration.
Muthama, perhaps we can talk about the civic education. IBC, to some extent, we can say that did not do their job diligently. Don't you think so?
One of the functions of the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission is voter education. And from my point of view is that voter education and generally civic education in this country has been done haphazardly and has been done during the euphoria time.
Yes.
When my colleague, the advocate here, is saying when the rationality of the citizenry is at the high peak. And so voter education or civic education at that time is like an exercise in futility. So this voter education should be consistent, should be continuous, and especially immediate after the elections, when people are sober, when there's no that political campaigns that are wooing people from the divides of the politics. So that the citizens are able to make these informed decisions way ahead before the elections.
Yeah.
And in this time in particular, IBC didn't do this voter education, and it can be explained because the people that we are targeting, these are new citizens, these are new people who have reached age 18 and have acquired national ID cards, and so they need this information campaign massively so that they are able to see this on as a priority of the citizen.
Yeah. And perhaps, Wakili, one thing that he's talked about is that, you know, campaigns are now taking a center stage. Now, I would argue that politicians should take advantage of this particular time and talk to the citizens and register as voters.
Yeah. Politics has three important cardinals or components. One, strategy, two, resources, and 3 numbers. So we are in a situation now that, and that's why you heard of an objective of aggression in 2012 called the tyranny of number. And in Kenya, we mobilize or we identify our politics allowed what I would call ethnics. So and ethnics, it's majorly ethnic numbers.
Yes.
And under numbers, we have 2 types of number. We have what we call perceptive numbers, and we have real numbers. Perceptive number is what politicians get when they pull crowds. But purely on those numbers, you cannot be able to gauge your numbers. The real numbers are the numbers that are
get at the ballot.
At the ballot.
Yes.
So I think it's important for politicians to take advantage of this opportunity. I got involved actively in 2017 during the MVL1 and MVL2, mass voter registration 1 and 2.
Yes.
And what the law as premised in the IBC Act is voter registration must be continuous. I think it was an issue of litigation in the Court of Appeal during the BBI case.
Yes.
So what is it? There must be a continuous voter registration, but of course there must be a mass voter registration. And what we did when we were doing a mass voter registration the other time, with the IBC, we have first mapped what I would call the stakeholders in this election. One, they are the IBC. Secondly, now they are the voters, and now they are the politician. So by then, the IBC were also able to incorporate in themselves the politician in terms of doing now the mobilization and the sensitization of the registration.
But has it been effective, the mass voter registration?
MVL1 are normally very slow. I'm not sure whether they are going to do a MVL2, but definitely, if you remember when we closed MVL2 in 2012 December, that's when we had the narrative of tyranny of numbers, and that's why most of the analysts used to say that this election will be lost or won during the voter registration. So I'm not sure whether they will have time to do MVL2. Because by May they're supposed to be doing a voter registration register audit.
Yes.
So I don't know whether they will have another opportunity to do probably MVL2 allowed February, March there. Yeah.
Mudhama, just before I come to you, Waitito, why is the youth so much on the sharp target?
Basing on the current population of the youth, I think the youth will be a very big determinant when it comes to the outcome of 2022 politics.
Yes.
And I believe whoever will be able to bag the youth also on the presidential candidature will be able to get to State House. And I'm also thinking when we had elections in 2017, we had narratives like Duraku and Kumira.
Yes.
You know that thing of saying we come out as ants, as a colony, which I feel is not happening this time round. It's like voter registration is being washed down. It is becoming, it is not that important to us. However, when you look at the counties and the regions that are having mass voter registration, those people are not sleeping. Every day they are waking up, tell their people, please come out and go and register as a voter.
Yes.
Which is what we are lacking in Mount Kenya, which is what we are lacking in Kiambu. And that is why I'm keeping on insisting, if we all first closed business and politics and first thought about this mass voter registration one, then I think we would start heading somewhere. Yes.
Okay, let me just ask you, from your experience, Mount Kenya is not going to field a direct candidate this year. Next year, that's next general election. So how is it going to be for that particular voter in that particular region to understand that, yes, they don't have a direct candidate, but they still have to go and register as voters? What will convince them?
What we are trying to tell people is that Mount Kenya holds 40% of the current population. And we need to get what is Mount Kenya's 40% share of the cake. So if we do not have the numbers, then we won't get the share. We want that when it's coming to the architecture of the next government,
yes,
we want to have 40% of that government being structured and coming from Mount Kenya region. Because we all know Mount Kenya runs the economy of this country. If Mount Kenya is dead, then we do not have an economy as Kenya. So we are trying to convince the masses and tell them we need these numbers so that we can have a bigger bargaining power. Whoever will be the president. However, I'm still thinking that it is quite early to determine we might not front a candidate. You never know what is cooking. By the time we get to December and next year, we might just have something.
So it could be political strategy.
It is. Politics is about hiding your cards. You don't display your cards on the table.
Yes.
So people might be thinking Mount Kenya, we are sleeping, and then we will come out strong.
Yeah. Somebody said that in politics is like going to war. You don't show your opponent your next move.
It is
just
like
ambush.
It's like a game of poker.
Yes.
You just don't place all your cards on the table.
Absolutely.
You need to hide some cards and know what you're taking home.
Mudhama, why is the youth so much in sharp focus?
One, of course, the stage itself says so. There's what they want. They want employment. They want to advance maybe their career. They want to... Matters of bread and butter becomes key for them.
Yes.
And so I will not be so much hard on them, if at all they would want somebody to bankroll them to go for voting. But also this exercise of voting is, for me, unnecessary duplication because the arrangement or the systems and the mechanism of registering Kenyans as citizens should be served as sufficient and serve as a double arrangement for one to acquire the citizenship through the ID card and also to become a voter. So this wastage of resources and wastage of time. And I would really want the policymakers to harmonize and the legislators to harmonize the two exercises so that we don't spend our meager resources on duplication.
Could it be because they don't see youth at the top? That's why they're feeling, somehow, lack of motivation in them.
One, it tells because the numbers of the youth should send a very signal, very serious signal to the policymakers, to the government, to any department of government that is giving services to the people, that this constituency is so big that cannot be ignored, that every effort must not be spared to reach out to the youth so that they are able to register. And like the advocate said, this is a social contract.
Yes.
And this social contract will lose meaning if at all the parties to this contract, they are not playing their rightful role to them. And so we need to hammer the point. We need to take the message to the young people and say, if at all you want to shape the destiny of this country, you must take an active role. Outside that, then you are just a voiceless gong.
Yeah, a voiceless gong. I like that. Wakili, at the end of the day, come next year, people will go and cast their vote. But as a nation, something is amiss somewhere. Perhaps if you could just go back and see or just reflect what happened in past general elections and now heading to the next one, the country seems not to be so much in a hurry to get to the next poll. Don't you think so?
I probably so. Sometimes it was seen also to be a political strategy to delay election, probably before BBI had ceased. But I think certainly yes. But I think you can only stop this election pursuant to Article 102 when there is an external aggression, and the aggression should not be from within. If two communities are fighting in Kenya, it's not a substantive reason to stop or postpone the election. And it's normally pushed for 6 months, then another 6 months. So it's a period of 12 months. But when we have an external aggression, probably you can slow it down. But we should also look this one. I'll give a comparison of what happened in DRC Congo with Joseph Kabila. You remember he suspended the election with the reason that there was no sufficient fund probably to conduct the election. And by then external donors tried funding the election, but he also blocked them. This was a political strategy for him to continue staying in power for 2 years. So certainly yes, there could be such strategy to delay the election or to do some frustration. IBC was asking for 40.9 billion. There are still 14.5 billion that has not been remitted to them. So there are a lot of issues, but certainly I think it will be good for the citizens to get an opportunity as their major democratic right next year to vote in their leaders or to sign that social contract between them and their political elite.
Munywa,
yes.
Chances are that before the end of this exercise, are we likely to see a change in the numbers?
Yeah, we might see a turnaround, basing on that IEBC is still complaining they don't have enough funds for mobilization. And we all know the culture of Kenyans where we rush during the last minute when the queue is very long. So I think that by the time we are getting to the end of the exercise, we will have gotten on ground and we will have been able to convince people, because at the end of the day we are still motivating the political class to come out in numbers.
Yes.
And we all know they will come out during the last minute. But I'm thinking that if IEBC really took their job seriously, I'm really blaming IEBC at the moment, because I believe there are very many ways they could be able to motivate people and and give a direction to Kenyans to come out and register as voters. But all they did is go and pitch tents and then wait for people passing by to swing by.
All right. So you're putting all the blame squarely on IEBC?
I'm not putting the blame squarely on IEBC, but I think they play a 60-70% role in the exercise.
Absolutely. Okay, so let's just take a break, and when we come back, we just need to understand, what's in the brain of IEBC. Perhaps, most people did not understand that mass voter registration was happening. If you ask any random youth on the street, they will tell you, Mimi sijui. All right? I need to understand that one when we come back after this particular break.
Kupata sikiza tune hii ya kibeti, bonyeza *811 *962 hash.
Aki umefanya vizuri sana kunifikia hii simu sasa. Nimekuwa na stress kutoka asubuhi kabisa. Na ni huyu mtu ambaye alikuwa anapatiana majina ya vitu. Kwani hakutufikiria sisi watu wa Eastern Ukambani? Ni nani alisema ati wife kwa Kiswahili ni mke? Na akasema ati handbaka. Hii inabebwa na mwanamke handbaka. Ati kwa Kiswahili ni kibeti. Huko kwetu mke Ndiye Kibeti.
Ili kupata skiza tune hiyo ya Kibeti, bonyeza star 811 star 962 hash. Star 811 star 962 hash.
Unazungumza nini na maadui zetu wewe?
Ndio nipige kibao. Wajua nilikuwa niko karibu tu kupatana na Leo.
Unifuatafuata na isiyo kunimaliza kabisa.
Watoto wa dadangu hata sijui kama ni wake.
Umaanisha nini?
Huoni kwamba wakati umefika wa kuungana na mimi? Umemwambia nini baba ulipoongea naye?
Nothing.
Ana?
Piki inaendelea hapa.
Haijalishi kinachoendelea.
I will only stop you from killing more people. And what if I kill you too?
Because I can't love you.
And she can't love you either.
If you really love Vicente as much as you say, then why haven't you reproached me for his death?
Love of my life, my dear. And there's nobody who can change that, darling.
Now, all we need to do is move on to the second phase of the plan. You'll love this. Because this is where you come in.
You have something stuck here, right over here.
Eduardo?
Don't let him get away!
What's going on?
Hang on, hang on.
And welcome back. So we need to understand why that youth vote is quite important. And let me just ask you, Wakili, as a youth, how many times have you voted?
For me, I think I've voted thrice. And that's it, I've voted thrice.
Okay. Let me focus mostly on Mount Kenya. Mount Kenya, it's quite open unless Munyo says that it's never too late yet. Something might come up. But as it is right now, there is no motivation.
Yeah.
That's what we can all assume. And we look at Rift Valley. Rift Valley is leading. And worst of all, Samburu County is leading. Why so? Starting with you, Munyo.
Well, I think, as I said earlier, the people in Samburu, as I can see, Samburu, Elgeyo Marakwet, Wajir, West Pokot, and Mandera are the ones which are leading.
Yes.
There is a lot of work being done by the local leadership and mobilization and all that. And not forgetting that we should also not entirely blame Mount Kenya, because we know residents and people from Mount Kenya are really hardworking, are very hardworking.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, these people are trying to come out of the COVID recession. They are trying to make ends meet. And so it seems like Mount Kenya is not very political at the moment. And what they are currently considering and working on is putting bread on the table. So at the end of the day, their normal culture of rushing to the last minute. And that's why I've said that Mount Kenya has its own cards up their sleeves. So we should not really assume that there is no motivation. At the moment, they are thinking it is early, we still have a few more weeks to go. So at the end of the day, we will get there. And I am sure we will get there.
That sounds like more of a Kenyan. At the end of the day, tutafika tu. We're waiting for the last moment. And perhaps that's what Budama was saying before we went on a break, that, we're waiting until that last minute, 2 days to go. And then, lines on a particular, the other side, people are, IBC, we need more time and this and that. And I think just before you even continue, you people go out there and register. There is enough time right now. It takes you less than 10 minutes, confirm your documents and your credentials, and you're good to go. Then you go back to Biashara. All right. So, Budama, why is Nyanza not motivated? Okay, at least now, well, ODM leader has not openly declared his candidature, but from all the signs, chances are that he'll be on the ballot. But why is Nyanza not leading in the park?
We can sort of speculate. But one of the things, as you have alluded to,
yes,
is that the ODM party leader has not declared officially that he's running. He's saying 50-50, saying it's like he's running.
Just some sign.
Yes, some sign is like, I'm going to declare. Actually, he has, in one of the public meetings, he has said he's going to declare his position once this exercise of voter registration is done.
Yeah.
So that wishy kind of is the electorate, the potential voters like having wait and see. Let's wait and see, and then we make a decision. And so that really eats into the time of the people that would have used to go and register as voters. And so also bringing the issue of Samburu, that is having 8% registered vote, leading Nairobi as 2%. It must be a concerted effort, a multi-stakeholder mobilization that we cannot afford to leave it to IBC. And I've got soft spot. I was one of the applicants for as a commissioner for the IBC. So that we cannot leave it to IBC to do this assignment. All of us as citizens of this country must push, must urge the young people to go and register. And for those that have registered, must go and check their status, whether they still appear in the register, so that the process becomes faster and is able to serve the people at the real time. Because we are spending money, public money, and of course the IBC has not gotten the money that requested from the exchequer. But we must make use of the available time and the resources that have been set aside.
Okay, Wakili, what do you think makes IBC to have sleepless nights, Chebukati and the entire team?
I think it must be stressing for them because of the target they have put in terms of registering. But I think Chebukati alluded the other time of 3 or 4 challenges they are facing. One, delay in terms of the registration that Parliament should pass. Secondly, what I would call underfunding. The other one is the sophistication of this election. Remember, we will have another added voter, 6 to 7 million. It means that the streams that will be used will allow total to 53,000. Now that one comes with more resources to be put into. The other major challenge they are facing is the litigation. There are too many litigation on the IBC, either on the procurement process, either cancellation or suspension of them. And these are all things that are leading to the delayed election. So certainly still they are facing a lot of challenges, but that one is not to say that they shouldn't be able to achieve this voter registration if they will be able to do enough mobilization and voter sensitization. But the most important thing is, even after we do voter registration, the most important, whoever wins any election, may it be civic, constituency or county, is the person who will have the strategy of getting people out to go and vote. In America, they normally call it GOT, go out and vote. So whoever will have, whether this election will be sealed during voter registration, either this one or MVR2, the biggest and the smartest strategy will be allow of getting a vote out to go out and vote.
Munyo, can you just excuse IBC at this particular point that they just got in their house in order recently, the new commissioners in place, and therefore we can excuse them that they might not get it right at this particular point, that come 2022 they'll have everything put in place. Can you excuse them for that?
Yes, we should definitely excuse them. Much as we're putting a lot of blame on them and telling them that it is their burden to make sure that voters are out here and are registering. However, we can't cut them a bit of slack, because at the end of the day they have just come from their own internal wrangles, and there is no house that is 100% clean. But I'm also proud of what Chebukati is doing, because at the end of the day he's trying to put his house in order. However, even as much as he's putting his house in order, we don't have time. And so if we don't have time, then we need to work and burn the midnight oil and make sure that we deliver. And then when it comes to 2022, I believe their house is in order. Yes. And I believe they'll carry out a credible elections by then.
Okay, allow me to understand this. Make me understand what's in the head of a Kenyan youth who is applying to vote for the first time.
When we got on ground, there's a euphoria that has been there where money has to exchange hands for something to be delivered. And it is what we are trying to tell the youth, that it is not always about that 1 shilling that will be given for you to do something. Because if you go on ground right now and you tell youth, there is the voter registration station, and they'll tell you then if you want us to go, then in Kikuyu they call it burning the gum. So they'll tell you, please put something in my pocket so that I can go. And this will also be a major challenge when it comes to 2022, because even when it comes to 2022, we will have to, as my brother has spoken about it, we will have to ensure we know the methodology of which will take a voter from their home to the voting station and back. So even when it comes to voter registration, we need now to come back to our senses and tell each other that we need to know how we are going to get this non-registered voter from point A to the registration point at point B, because we cannot ignore the fact that people are really demotivated when it comes to voter registration. So IEBC should start architecturing, and also our politicians and some of us should start architecturing ways of ensuring, especially when it comes to the Mount Kenya block, which is very demotivated, to ensure that we are being able to ferry youth from point A and take them to registration. However, also IEBC should take advantage of the Form 4 leavers who are actually in school, so that when they're registering for their identity cards, let us register them as voters. Let us not wait for that particular moment when you now need to take them from wherever they are working, from their border business and the saloons, to now tell them, now go and register as a voter. Yet at the end of the day, when you're applying for your ID, you apply for your ID and you state where you come from, your location, your sublocation, your clan. So it is very easy to identify with a polling station when you're registering for an ID.
Madam, I see you nodding with affirmation.
Yes. Yeah, for sure. We must be innovative.
Yes.
If at all we want to be successful, we must explore opportunities in the technology, and maybe make it user-friendly, where the potential voter can register online, and then the rest of the particulars can be processed by the commission at their convenient time for the voter and for the commission. That will really may increase the numbers. And as Munyo is saying, there are so many other opportunities, like in the schools and colleges. Of course, the IBC are tapping into that. So we must even coming up with the mobile registration, will really speed up and increase the numbers that we want to take part in the next general election.
Perhaps at this the best particular opportunity for politicians to take advantage. Every Sunday they go to any function, they should come along with all the IBC officials and register that today I'm going to church A, church B, do mass voter registration. Perhaps that can also work.
Yes.
Just make me understand again, what is in the head of a Kenyan voter, youth, more so?
I think also drawing from history.
Yes.
You see that participation in the elections at times doesn't translate to material or any sort of significant gain to the person, of the young person, of the youth. And so there are questions that may be happening in their thinking that what do I stand to gain directly? That I'm going to vote candidate A, candidate B, MCA, MP, all these. What does it translate to? What do I gain from this? And that element can come out from voter education, a series of voter education, civic education, and the appeal to young people that the only way to make your say, to make your decision, is only through to influence policy formulation and legislation, is for you to be an active citizen through voting.
Wakili, it's quite interesting that when it comes to any electoral cycle, is a youth that is usually being targeted. And when you look at even at the violence, it's always the youth. a majority of old and adult Kenyans are always, left aside. So perhaps the youth can argue that, okay, we are being pushed to go and registered voters, we vote, but then when it comes to that direct gain, they don't see anything.
Before I come to your question, let me tackle a question you had asked my colleague about a Kenyan voter. I find a Kenyan voter to be a bit funny or comical. There was a report that was released yesterday, and I think it appeared in your bulletin by Insight Strategies Solution Africa. And they did their survey on 2 dimensions, one development rating and what is called approval rating. And you see in Mount Kenya, and for the case of Kiambu governors, because I think they had done, they did rating for governors. Kiambu governors was good in rating in terms of development, but the approval rating was a bit poor. And this was a governor that has been there for almost a year and a half. And the same case with the Nyamira governor. So a Kenyan voter is quite funny. You see, would give someone low approving in terms of approval rating, but in terms of development, he gives him quite high. Coming back to your question on youth,
yes,
youth are what we call political constituency. In Nigeria, there are 2 types of political constituency. There are the Christians and the Muslims, and power keeps rotating between two those constituency. In Kenya, we have women as a political constituency. We have ethnicity as a political constituency. We have youth as a political constituency.
Yes.
And probably we have even person living with disability.
Right.
And you find even in Kenya, most of the political narrative or campaign narrative are coined allowed 2 issues in past. One, unity. Secondly, youth. And it's only this election we are seeing the appearance of now the economy.
Right.
And that's why you hear of a generational change. So the youth are the majority. That's why you hear being a bigger political constituency, they are automatically the target of many politicians.
Right. But then, Munywa, why are we not seeing, a majority of youth who have that strong vote being at the helm of the political contest?
Victor, as I said earlier, we have already architectured the current youth to believe it has to be financially motivated for them to give results.
Yes.
So, and we cannot ignore that fact. And I would like to agree with that gentleman that we should have innovative ways that current youth can be able to follow. For example, we saw M-Pesa coming in and the online banking platforms. So if you can operate your account from your phone, I really wonder why you cannot register as a voter online, and so that we can be able now to capture everyone who is also quite busy and is not finding the correct time to go and queue at the voter registration desk. Because at the moment, inside the Kenyan youth head, every Kenyan youth right now believes, I have a very strong vote, and if you need my vote, please give me something for me to give you my vote.
Absolutely. And I think that can also work, because take an example, the COVID-19, the jab. First of all, you have to go, there's a portal there. You fill your form, your credentials, and then you simply go and get that jab and go back home and get a notification that your next jab is due on a particular date. Perhaps that somebody can say cannot be hacked, but matters election, Mudama, it's quite emotive that somebody can decide and say, I'm going to run away with this system, and that's it.
There's a lot of mistrust around our electoral process, and this also makes it not very friendly to the people. There's a lot of that style you are doing in primary, and primary covering your homework so that nobody can take it from there. So if at all this the whole process was friendly, was without being treated as a very sensitive way and intimidating and all these freelancers sort of.
Yes.
I think it can be accessible to many people. And the youth, the biggest challenge is that the Kenyan youth is struggling with the matters of unemployment, and really that one is really broken. Is focused on matters of citizenship and responsibilities, and so like any other human person, that survival becomes a priority. Then this, unless and until matters selection and voting process becomes a requirement by law, then there's no coercive force that can make somebody that I need to go and register as a voter until that candidate will come and give me 200, give me 500, so that I can see the logic.
Yeah. But sad enough, you know, matters election is democratic. You either choose to vote or not. But let me ask you, you applied to that position of a commissioner at the IEBC. Yes. Let me ask you, anything that you would have done differently? Perhaps would you have been picked to that commission?
Oh yes, my area of interest for the last over 10 years, I've been involved in matters of voter education and civic education generally, which where voter education is an aspect of civic education. And my approach would have been that the candidates from the various political parties are key stakeholders.
Yes.
And one of them is to work closely with them, despite our independence of the commission, that we must involve all the political parties, that they are involved in our planning. We have reviews, we have evaluations, and much more. We are able, after every election, even if it's a by-election, we are able to conduct an evaluation as a running process to establish what are our challenges, what are our success stories, so that this informs the next election that is going to take place at the national level, at the county level, or at the ward level. That running process is important, and involvement of all stakeholders, the state and non-state actors that have interest in matters of election must be involved, and must not be involved once, must be involved in the entire process, that after every general election we begin in earnest preparation for the next election. But also the composition of the commission, also the appointing authority at times, there's a small letdown there, because when you come and fail the post at the last minute, then you are disabling this commission. And even if you have very able men and women, they may look incompetent because they don't. You need ample time and psychological set for you to do a national exercise.
Wakili, could this be something that you know, can replicate itself in 2022?
Of course, yes. If you read the Krieger report, and I normally say that if there is anything that we needed to follow, implement, to its last word was the Krieger report. I think Krieger report had indicated all that was ill in Kenya, including stating that we needed to have a commissioner not less than 24 months before the election, that is 2 years. And you know, the commissioners plays what I would, their role is normally a policy, and then the secretariat play the operational role. So we needed to have commissioners. He also mentioned that we needed to have what I would call a tamper-proof ballot, in a way that you cannot be able to add or get out a vote when it has been cast. Secondly, I would wish to mention something you had mentioned early on issues to do with the trust. Antonio Gules, while addressing the United Nations Secretary General, while addressing the annual general meeting, he mentioned that the world is going through a trust deficit, either between spouse, between states, or between a community. You see, in America, they normally have what would call a mail voting, and it normally works. But in Kenya, politics and voting is a very sensitive issue, so it will be very hard for some of these things probably to apply for now, but probably the future is bright for such applications.
All right. Munyo, is the future bright?
Yes, the future is bright, Victor. because at the end of the day, we should also remember that Kenya is a third world country, and we are currently developing, and a lot of these things are usually done through finances, and we are trying to get our finances correct. So I believe the future is quite bright, basing on the fact that now the youth are also coming up, and a few years from now, I think we'll be on the right track.
IBC, you know, according to Chebukati, they had a target of 40.9 billion shillings, but that is not what they have been given by the government. So at this particular point, do you really think moving forward they will easily achieve all their laid out, you know, success steps as we head to the next poll?
Victor, I believe if you've ever done a budget, there are a lot of things that you can cut in a budget. You know, when you propose 40.9 billion Kenya shillings, it is not a must you get the 40.9 billion Kenya shillings. Because if you had proposed to take 3 cups of tea and there's not enough money, you can at least take 2. You know, so I believe they can adjust accordingly, basing on the money that is there in the economy, so that they can know even tomorrow. And it is not only IEBC that usually has budget cuts. Even Parliament itself has budget cuts. Even ministries have budget cuts.